If I tell you what this man did with his wedding ring, you might cry, but you'll thank God when you hear the end. There was once a young man named Michael. Michael was the kind of man everyone loved to be around. He laughed easily, talked gently, and believed that true love could last forever. He met Sarah at church, not in a fancy place, not in a grand way, just on an ordinary Sunday when he forgot his Bible and borrowed hers. She smiled and said, "You better return it before you forget where Matthew is." They both laughed, and right there, something began. They started talking, praying together, dreaming together. And one day under the mango tree behind the church, Michael held her hand and said, "Sarah, I don't want to promise you a perfect life. I just want to promise you a faithful one." She cried. He smiled. Evan smiled too. On their wedding day, when the pastor said, "What God has joined together, let no man put asunder," they both nodded. They thought love would always feel like that moment, bright, pure, endless. But life has a way of testing what we say before God. At first, it was small things. Michael came home late, Sarah got tired, bills piled up, the laughter began to fade. He'd say, "You've changed." She'd say, "You don't listen anymore." They stopped praying together. They stopped holding hands in church. Little cracks became deep wounds. One night, Sarah cried alone in the kitchen while Michael slept on the couch. She whispered, "Lord, is this what love turns into?" And everyone stayed silent for a while. Not because God was gone, but because sometimes God let silence teach us what shouting cannot. One morning, Michael came home from work and saw something on the dining table, his wedding ring. Beside it, a note, "I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of feeling unwanted." He froze. He wanted to be angry, but instead he felt empty. He looked at that ring, round, shiny, endless, and said, "Lord, what happened to forever?" He didn't go to work that day. He just sat on the floor, holding that ring in his hand, weeping. And in that quiet moment, he heard something deep in his heart. Not an audible voice, but a whisper. "Son, that's how I feel when my children walk away from me." Michael gasped. It was like fire in his chest and ice in his vein at the same time. He realized he had broken more than his marriage. He had broken covenant with God. Weeks passed. Sarah stayed at her sister's house. Michael tried to fix things. Flowers, apologies, promises, but she didn't want to come back. So he went to church alone. He sat at the back where no one could see his tears. The same church where they once said, "I do." And while everyone was singing, he couldn't. He just whispered, "God, I lost her, but please don't let me lose you." That day, the pastor preached on Matthew 19 verse 9. "Whoever divorces his wife, except for unfaithfulness, commits adultery." Michael listened, not with his ears, but with his broken heart. And he understood God wasn't condemning him. God was calling him back to faithfulness, not just to Sarah, but to the covenant heart of love itself. Months later, Michael met Sarah again, not at a restaurant, not at a fancy place, but at the funeral of a church elder who had been married for 54 years. During the service, the old man's wife stood and said, "We had good days and bad days, but the secret was simple. We never let go of God, and we never let go of each other at the same time." Sarah looked at Michael. Michael looked at her. No words, just tears. After everyone left, Michael walked up to her and said softly, "I kept your ring. Not because I believed you'd come back, but because I believed God wasn't done with us." Sarah covered her face and wept. And right there, in the same church where they once promised forever, they held hand again. Not perfect hands, not clean hands, but forgiving hands. They prayed, not with fancy words, but with broken hearts. And God, who had watched their pain, began to heal what they had torn apart. Years passed. Their home was simple but filled with laughter again. Every Sunday they sat together in church, fingers intertwined like roots of an old tree. One day their little daughter asked, "Daddy, why do you wear 2 wedding rings?" Michael smiled, "Because the first one reminds me of my promise to your mother, and the second one reminds me of God's promise to never give up on me." The room fell silent. Sarah wiped her tears, and in that small home, Evan smiled again. Because that's what faithfulness looks like. Not perfection, not pretending, but staying. Staying when it's hard, loving when it hurts, forgiving when it would be easier to walk away. Maybe as you're watching this, you feel like Michael or Sarah. Maybe your marriage is on the edge. Maybe you've already walked away. Or maybe you're single thinking, love isn't for me anymore. Hear this. God is still writing your story. He hasn't given up on you. He hasn't stopped loving you. Even if your ring is broken, His covenant with you is not. He is the bridegroom who stays even when we wander. He is the God who restores even when all we see are ruins. If you still have breath, it's proof that God still has purpose. Don't let your heartbreak be the end. Let it be the beginning of your healing. Now, there's a word I want you to type in the comments. A word that carries fire, faith, and forgiveness. A word that breaks chains and reminds you who you are in God. That word is restored. Type it below. Not as a comment, but as a declaration of faith. Because when you type it, you're not just typing letters, you're saying, my heart will be restored, my love will be restored, my life will be restored. My friend, before you scroll away, let me speak this over you. You are not your past, you are not your failure. You are loved by a God who restores broken rings and broken hearts. And if this story touched you, even a little, don't keep it to yourself. Someone out there needs this hope too. So please subscribe to our channel, share this story with someone who needs healing, and remember, love isn't dead when God is still in it.
Please like, share and subscribe.